Welcome. This is what's been happening on the Sun today, the 19th of April 2011. First, let's take a look at the sunspots. We are losing region 1190 over the west limb. 1191 remains fairly stable. There has been some growth reported in 1193, but it is not rapid, so I don't expect much additional activity out of it. We have a newly numbered region coming over the southeast limb, region 1195. The small region just trailing to the south and east of region 1193 is still there, so I expect it to be numbered fairly soon. And there are a few tiny spots in that region that I talked about coming over the northeast limb, and again it should probably be numbered in the next day or so. We've only had one C flare in the last 24 hours, and that was labelled to the new region 1195. Let's start our 360-degree tour of the Sun by going to the stereo ahead spacecraft. You can see there's been quite a bit of activity in the region just to the west of Sun Center in these images, which would be well over the limb to us. That probably is the remnants of region 1185. You will see some evidence of that in the upcoming coronal movies from the Solar Dynamics Observatory. But first let's take a look at the sunspot movie, and I want you to concentrate on region 1193. Towards the end of this 48-hour sequence, you'll see that there is a new penumbral spot developing in the middle of the region. In the magnetic movie, you can see that the region coming over the southeast limb looks quite large, and towards the end of the sequence keep an eye on region 1193 for the newly emerging magnetic flux. In the helium-304 image, which is characteristic of about 50,000 degrees, we see the new region coming over the southeast limb is quite active. However, also keep an eye on the prominences in each of the four quadrants of the disk. There's quite a bit of unusual activity in each one of them, so you may have to run the movie through several times. Again, in the coronal movie, the area of interest is probably this new region coming over the southeast limb. But as always, there's something going on just about everywhere in the corona. Lastly, we turn to the stereo behind spacecraft to see what will be rotating onto the Sun over the next week. The activity we are seeing is mainly concentrated in this new region coming over our southeast limb, which is shown here near disk center in the south on the stereo B movie. Now, putting all these data together to produce a composite coronal image of the whole Sun, we can see that we are losing over the west limb the last of the regions in this extensive band of activity in the northern hemisphere of the Sun. However, in the next few days, some relatively weak areas from the same complex will be returning over the east limb. In the southern hemisphere, once the region in the southeast has rotated fully onto the disk, we are expecting no significant new region to rotate onto the disk for at least 10 days, unless of course we get some newly emerging regions pop up in the meantime. For information on coronal mass ejections, we turn to the coronagraphs on SOHO. At the very beginning of both sequences, you can see a coronal mass ejection that seems to be occurring all round the edge of the Sun. That means that the coronal mass ejection is either heading directly towards us or directly away. If it is heading towards us, then in a day or two there's a very good chance we will get a geomagnetic storm. The auroral zone seems very quiet at the moment. However, the KP index got up to level 4, which is considered to be unsettled. NOAA attributed that to a slow coronal mass ejection that occurred on April 15th and has only just reached the Earth in the last 24 hours. So in summary then, the sunspot number has remained at 67, the X-ray background is at B4, radio sun has dropped to 111 solar flux units, solar wind speed has picked up a little to 400 km per second, and the KP index has varied between 0 and 4, which is quiet to unsettled conditions. What's my forecast for the next 24 hours? I think the chance of C flares has dropped somewhat, but I think we'll still likely get some, so I've dropped that to good, with the very low possibility of M flares and X flares. We have a good chance of getting coronal mass ejections in the next day, and with that halo coronal mass ejection, I think the chances of getting a geomagnetic storm have increased somewhat, so I've put that as possible. By the way, the beautiful images of the aurora came from spaceweather.com. Remember, if you go to the SOHO, Stereo or Solar Dynamics Observatory websites, you can get real-time updates of the same data I've been showing you and see if anything has happened in the meantime. So that's it for today. Keep safe. Bye for now.